What's up, guys? This is Jesse DeRozier with Hydrilla Gorilla Guide Service here on Lake Guntersville. Today's date is October 24th, 2025, and this is What's on the Deck. So this week, we finally saw water temperatures start to drop. We were held for about 3 weeks at around 75 degrees, it seemed like, and the water temperatures just continued to hold rather than drop, and it kind of had those fish in kind of a standstill. We also had a lot of east winds coming off those hurricanes a couple weeks ago, and that also kind of held things up. Well, this week, the water temps finally dropped with these colder nights, and we're down to around 70 degrees first thing in the morning, and as a result, these fish finally started to really feed up this week. So we're finally starting to see that fall feed start to really take place. We had some really good numbers this week, as well as some great size, and it is continuing to get better day by day. We're seeing more and more big fish start to show up in the shallows, which is really going to turn into a really good fall. It seems to be a little bit later than normal, but I don't really care as long as it, turns into as good a fall as it did last year. That being said, let's go ahead and get started on the baits that we use this week, as well as for the tournament guys, some of the techniques that I would recommend utilizing if you're fishing tournaments this weekend. So for you tournament guys, let's do that first. Guntersville is known for its grass bite, and nothing says fall fishing more than picking up a punch rig and getting in deep into the grass. The grass is finally hollowing out really nicely. These colder temps, once the water drops below 80 degrees, we start to see the grass start to die back. So what will happen is you'll start seeing the edges of the grass start to, instead of it being a solid wall, they'll start to kind of push back, and you'll get a little bit of a void up and underneath the ledge of the grass. That's what you want to start seeing, as well as you start seeing holes popping up in the grass. And what's happening is that grass is starting to die and fall to the bottom of the lake. So it's creating voids and pockets in those grass mats, and that's where that punch rig comes into play. The second technique that Guntersville is known for in the fall is going to be frogging. And again, with those holes and pockets and voids in the grass, it allows for those fish to really start to finally push up into that grass and use it as a blanket. As we get these colder nights, they want to get up and underneath it for the warmth from the sun from the day before, and throughout the night, that gives them that nice warm blanket that they'll be there finally first thing in the morning, rather than it just being like an afternoon bite. It's going to be an all-day bite now as that continues to develop. So picking up a SPRO frog and throwing that out there on these mats right now is going to be a good option as well. If you are, again, a tournament angler and you're looking for big bites, you're not worried about how many fish that you're catching in a day, the next bait that I would recommend you look into is going to be throwing the bull wake. The bull wake has become such a dynamite bait on Lake Guntersville. The way that the grass sets up off these river channels really sets up nicely for the bull wake. What happens in the fall is we get schoolers that start feeding up on your threadfin. Well, not only are the threadfin starting to group up in small groups, but also your gizzard shad. And the gizzard shad that we've been seeing are in groups of about, say, like a 5-foot circle. You'll see 200-300 of them together in one little wolf pack, and they'll just be up running around these flats. Well, these big solitary fish see that as a major opportunity, and they like to eat 6-inch gizzard shad. And that's exactly what that represents. So getting that out there and getting that over the top of their heads on these flats will absolutely get you some dynamite blow-ups. And I'm talking a ferocious hit when they really hit it. So if you're looking for quality, again, it's not something that you're going to get a lot of bites, but it's something that you're going to get the right bites if you are a tournament angler. So let's go ahead and get started on kind of what we did primarily this week. So being that a lot of the people that we get are here on vacation. They're here, they want to catch fish, they want to catch numbers, they want to catch quality, but ultimately they just want to get out there, learn about the lake, learn techniques, and experience what Guntersville has to offer. So in that regard, we tend to cater to exactly what the client's looking for. If they are a tournament angler and they're looking specifically to, you know, go out and do tournament prep, we're going to be going out, we're going to be looking for those fewer bites. We're going to be doing some of these other techniques. We're not going out there hunting for 30, 40, 50, 70 fish in a day. We're going out and we're looking for, you know, 5 to 10 bites in a day, but the right quality. The opposite being said for those who are coming into town and really coming in for vacation. A lot of those just want to come out, they want to have a great day, catch, you know, 20, 30, 40 fish, you know, whatever the lake's willing to offer up for that day. And one of the best techniques any time of year is going to be that of throwing a chatterbait. So if I'm throwing a chatterbait this time of year, I'll typically throw 2 different sizes. I'm going to throw a full size, something that's going to represent the adult threadfin shad or adult gizzard shad. Well, not adult, but the 6-inch gizzard shad. And be able to get that up there again on those flats, kind of the same areas where we're throwing these bull shads. And give them a bait that they absolutely love to chase. The second is, again, a chatterbait, but stepping it down to a little bit smaller size. So instead of the full size, this one is a mini max. And we absolutely crushed them on this in the last couple of weeks. This one, as you can see, the trailer is barely hanging on. I mean, it's been completely ripped off, but it's still intact. I mean, it's not going anywhere. The reason why is because I took a dot of the Avid Angler Solutions fishing glue, put that on there, and even though that trailer gets tore up, I can continue to fish this, because what happens, as soon as it lands in the water, the hook slides right back into place, and it works like there's absolutely nothing wrong, as long as it's still continued to glued to that head. So I make sure that I'm gluing all of my soft plastics on anytime I'm using chatterbaits. The jackhammer, I'm going to make another adjustment to. The jackhammer comes with 2 metal prongs. One goes up as well as one goes down. Those metal prongs, to me, are a little bit longer than they need to be. They tend to tear up your plastics, especially if you have a plastic that has a very small profile at the very head of the trailer. So what I do is I'll take a pair of dikes and say this is the spikes on it. I'm going to go right in the middle of it and snip it in half. So rather than an eighth, or rather than a 1/4 inch, I'm going to snip it down to an 1/8 of an inch. So I got an 1/8 of an inch on either side. I'll feed that on there, put a drop of glue, finish pushing it up, and that trailer is not going anywhere. The next bait that we use this week is the Producer Swimbait Swiminator. This is kind of like my 4-wheel drive bait. I can throw this absolutely anywhere. I can throw it out in the open water, and I can throw it in the thickest of grass. It will come through completely clean. I'm pairing it with the Owner Flashy Swimmer. It's a 5/0 with a 1/4 ounce weight, and that right there will absolutely get it done out here on the lake. The one thing that I would highly recommend as well with any of these soft plastics is going to be, guys, make sure that you're taking some Thump Gel and putting it on your bait. It definitely adds scent. If you're punching, it will add a little bit of a slippery texture to allow for your bait to slide through the grass a little bit easier, as well as it will help to allow for a lot of this grass to kind of slip off of your bait, rather than it grabbing your bait and just being stuck to your bait while you're reeling it in. You can pop your line, and because that is a slippery substance, it will allow for it to shed that grass off of your bait and be able to keep fishing that bait for the remainder of your cast, which increases the amount of efficiency for that lure. The next 2 baits were both jig head minnows for this week. I threw actually about 4 different ones this week, and I wasn't going to show them all, but the first one was the new Cheetah by Producer Swimbaits. It's about 4 1/4 inches long. I pair it on a 3/16 ounce ducket sway head, and again, same thing with that one. It's got the metal prongs. I'm going to snip those down as well. The way that lead head is designed, it's got like a cupped neck on it, which allows for it to come around the head of that soft plastic. And I'm going to take that glue and glue every bit of that so that I can catch tons more fish without tearing up my soft plastics. The next one, as I mentioned again, is going to be another jig head minnow. This one did a lot of work this week. It is the 3/16 ounce guppy head by Dirty Jigs. And the guppy head comes with two different size hooks. It's got a really small hook, and then this is actually their larger hook. Even though it doesn't look very big, that is their larger hook. This is a little bit beefier. I have yet to straighten one of these hooks out. I can't believe actually how strong that hook is. But they have a smaller profile that I use a lot in the wintertime when I'm throwing like a 2.8 Kitech. But this is a 4-inch blue minnow. I mean, look at the teeth marks on that thing. Absolutely getting chewed. So they're definitely wanting anything right now that resembles a minnow. That being said, the next technique is actually giving them two minnows to chase after. So, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, is throwing the donkey rig. So 2 flukes, one hanging just a hair lower than the other. I tie it to where the tail either is right at the tip of the head or maybe about an inch down. I don't go any further because if you do, they'll run into each other and cause a problem. But I'm tying that with a 3-way swivel. If you don't have a 3-way swivel or can't get your hands on them, you can use 2 regular swivels. Just tie one on your main line through the eyelet to where it slides, put you a bead just like you would a Carolina rig, just to protect your knot. Tie your other one on your leader just like Carolina rig, and then off the one that's sliding up and down your line, tie you another leader with that hook. That'll get you exactly what you need. It works exactly the same way. So jerk baits absolutely are dynamite in the fall time, and that being the case, not just the soft jerk bait but also the hard. Now I do throw a lot of old school baits. I like them because it's something that everybody's kind of moved on past. They're no longer throwing it, so for the fish it's like a brand new fresh bait. This is a Smithwick Rattling Rogue. It's an old school 4-inch jerk bait. It does not have a weight transfer system in it, so it's a little bit harder to throw. I throw it on a very kind of like a light medium action little 6/6 rod if I'm throwing it on a bait caster. Otherwise I'll put it on an open face if somebody's having a hard time throwing this in the wind. But the action that you get off of this bait cuts really hard and really fast without going very far forward. And that's an action that I really like when these fish are schooling, because you don't want to be pulling your bait through the school. You want your bait to be working inside the school as long as possible. The next set of baits are both forms of crankbaits. First one is a square bill. Now this, again, working on the flats. If you have live scope and you can see how deep the grass is, being able to pick up a bait that you know is getting right down and ticking the tops of that grass is a really, really good option right now. And a lot of the flats seem to be like in that kind of 4 foot to the top of the grass where it's sticking up, and that pairs really nicely with a square bill. So that's something that I've been utilizing quite a bit. Next is going to be, again, a crankbait, but a lipless one. So the lipless crankbait, something that I always have on the deck in the fall time. It's something I can throw a country mile. So when those schoolers come up, they're way out there, I'm trolling towards them, this is going to probably be the first thing that I pick up and throw, just because I can throw it probably the furthest out of everything. It lands, and obviously you can get it moving pretty quickly to get in those schools, burn it back, get in there again. That just seems to be a really, really great option for, you know, your fall feeding fish. The last baits are all topwaters, and I, again, keep a pretty good variety of topwaters on the deck this time of year. First is going to be the Credge. It's a new bait, come out, was it last year or year before? So it's not been out very long, but it's got a nice little shimmying action on the surface. You can reel it below the surface if you wanted to. If they blow up on it and you miss them, you can pause it, and when it falls backwards, tail first, and shimmies actually going backwards, back towards the fish. It's a unique little bait. Next is going to be just a little topwater spitting image. It's an old school bait. It's been out for a long time. You can still get your hands on them. But that's basically a 3-inch bait. So it's small profile, like these small threadfin that they're eating. Very light rod twitches with that, and that bait will just absolutely cut left and right without going very far. Again, not wanting to get through that school of fish, but remain there right over the top of their heads with as much action as possible. That being said, the next bait does exactly that. It remains in place without going too far, and that's going to be a poplar. The poplar is something that doesn't take a lot of skill to throw. So if you've got kids or anything like that, that's something that you can definitely put in their hands. Get them to throw it out there, and they can't really work it wrong. I mean, you can lightly twitch it, you can pop it hard, doesn't really matter. But the good thing about it is if you know where there's a group of fish that keep coming up in a specific area, again, it's a bait you could throw in, and it's going to stay in that strike zone for as long as possible while still drawing attention to itself. The last bait is going to be a walking style bait. Again, this one is the Evergreen Shower Blows. Now this one works really great. We've had a lot of wind this week, as well as last week, well, for the last several weeks with those hurricanes. And I ended up putting the Vixen away, just due to the fact that when you throw it, it has a little bit more kind of fumbling action as it goes through the air. This one, because it's weighted towards the back, shoots like a bullet through the air. Doesn't matter if it's windy or not. This one will throw absolutely a long ways, even in the wind, without getting you fouled up or causing backlashes. It walks really, really great. It will cut very short distance between each time it walks. So again, staying in place in that strike zone as long as possible. So that's the reason why I'm throwing the top waters that I am. Again, I really like baits, walking style baits that have teaser tails. It's just something that I really like doing in the fall, is having a bait that has a teaser tail, if I can get one that has it. But that's basically it for this week, guys. I hope this information helps you out. I know there's going to be a lot of guys out on the water this weekend with the tournaments going on here on Guntersville, as well as, you know, just a lot of vacationers coming into town as well during the next week. So hopefully this information helps you guys out. Hope to see you out on the water, and until next week, tight lines.